BookTube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to share with you guys my July wrap-up for 2019. I know it's the middle of August, and this should have been posted a while ago, but I've been extremely busy. Next week I start school. My kids start school. I finally was hired as a sub, so not only am I going to have my normal instructional aid job with mild to moderate kids, but I'm also going to sub in the morning because I need extra cash, because a girl needs money. So with that being said, I'm a little late in posting this. Now I did pretty good in July, not as good as I did in June, but I am proud of myself, so I will be going over those books and the books that I read over the Dewey's 24-hour readathon, because that took place on August 2nd, and that is so close to the end of July that I might as well just do a whole wrap-up of those books so I have a little bit more to talk about in this one. Normally my wrap-up videos are pretty long because I do at least 5 minutes per video, or excuse me, per book, and I always leave the timestamps down below, so if you want to skip a book if you're not interested, you can do so. Now before we get started in this wrap-up, I want to address the elephant in the room. Yes, I do have a septum piercing. I just got it done on Tuesday, so it's only been 3 days. It's still a little swollen and sore, but the piercing itself didn't hurt, which I was absolutely surprised about. And I do look kind of strange to myself and to others. It's because I'm not used to it. Although I've wanted this piercing for 3 years, I always envisioned myself having the hoop, but you get your nose pierced with the horseshoe. And so the balls themselves, if you can see it closer, the balls themselves kind of trip me up. I'm like, I don't really like the balls. It makes it look like metal boogers, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. And the fact that I can flip it up in 2 weeks will help, you know, for those that think it's icky. I don't know. I'm really excited about it, and my piercer was so amazing, and like I said, it literally didn't hurt at all. I was super surprised. But I feel like I'm talking funny, and the tip of my nose is still really swollen, so it makes my nose look gargantuan. To me, anyway. Okay, on to the review. So the first book that I finished in July was The Alienist by Caleb Carr. This exact is what am I trying to say? This is exactly what I read. I do own the physical copy, but I let my friend borrow it. I listened to it on CD in my car because this is the unabridged version. Now I did do a rant on this. If you're interested, I'll leave it up in the cards there, but I hate abridged, and I don't even know why it's available. I mean, if you're going to read a book, you might as well read the whole thing. This one is unabridged, so it's the entire story. Our main character, which I can never remember his first name because I read it at the beginning of July, and of course it doesn't say. Why doesn't it say? It probably doesn't matter to you guys, but I like knowing the names of characters, but I'll leave his name here just so that way it makes me feel better. Our main character works for the New York Times as a reporter. One night he is awakened by a telephone call from his friend, that was a funny accent, from his friend Dr. Laszlo, and Laszlo says that he has to meet him at this tower and that there's been a murder, and the guy, our main character, is like, well, I don't do murders, you know what I mean? I'm a reporter, but that's not my forte. When he gets there, he meets Theodore Roosevelt, yes, the president. In this story, which is set in New York in 1896, Theodore is not the president yet. He's just the head of the police department. I don't know what it's called. It's not the chief of police. I think it's like the president of the police force. I don't know what that means. But anyways, Roosevelt's there. They're discussing how this murder happened and who do they think how the murder took place, like who is the murderer of this little boy. And Roosevelt decides that he's going to recruit 2 police officers from his department that are not purchased by the different gangs that are around in New York. They are great with their job and they're discreet and so forth. So they end up making like this small detective squad with 2 brother cops, Roosevelt, Dr. Laszlo, who is a psychiatrist. Then there's our main character, I don't know why I can't remember his name, and Sarah. Now Sarah works for the police department as well as the receptionist or something, but she's been friends with our main character since they were little, and Roosevelt and Laszlo went to college together, so everybody knows each other, and their main focus is to figure out whether or not this murderer is like a serial killer, if he's done this before. It was an amazing read. I gave it 5 stars, and the narrator of this particular book is George Guidall. It's Guidall, right? Guidall? I can never say last names. Regardless, he's amazing as a narrator. He has narrated over 1,300 books. He narrated half of the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. That's how I knew who he was. And because he's done 1,300 books, if you like audiobooks, I would definitely pick up one of his books because, like I said, the narrator is amazing. He's great with different voices and accents, and so good. I absolutely loved it. And if you like historical fiction or murder mysteries or a little bit of historical figures in your stories themselves, you will definitely like this. There is a TV show, I think it was like 2 seasons on TNT. I don't have cable, so I haven't seen it before, but I might be able to find it somewhere, and I do want to watch it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. 5 stars. The next book that I read, and I'm just going to hold my Kindle up, I did do a full review of this book, and I will leave the link to that video below, so I'm not going to go into depth of what I just read. And here's the picture of this book, which is called The Changeling, which is book 1 of the Odd Meyer series by William Ritter. Now, William Ritter is a YA author that I fell in love with a couple years ago. He wrote the Jacoby series, and now he's, you know, dabbing into middle grade. And this was such a fun read. It's about a goblin who goes to go steal a human baby and, you know, do the changeling thing. So he's supposed to leave his goblin baby and take the human baby, so that way the magic in the forest and everything, you have to sacrifice, you know what I mean? You have to sacrifice a human to the fairy world in order to continue having magic within the forest itself. And something goes awry. The mom wakes up and the main goblin has to run away, and he leaves his changeling along with the human baby in the crib, and the mom comes in and she's like, what is going on? So now she's got 2 kids. The changeling obviously is supposed to mimic the one that he's supposed to take place of. So now she's got twins, and she raises these boys until they're 12. The entire town knows that this is a changeling baby, but they don't know which one is which. And the mom doesn't care because she loves them both. And it's just about their adventure in the forest when the goblin finally comes back to get his charge, because they have 3 days before their world crumbles, and either they get the changeling back to fix the sacrifice, you know, like to give him up to the fairy world to keep the magic, or the entire forest will die and he will die with it. So, very fun read. I read it to my children, absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars, and like I said, there is a video review right here in the cards, so I will leave that. Absolutely love. If you like middle grade and you like fairy tales, I would definitely pick this one up. All right, so with my July theme, it was just the nonfiction. So just July nonfiction. So I did read a couple nonfiction. I planned on reading more. I just didn't get around to it. The first one that I did finish in July is As You Wish, Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride by Carrie Elves. I don't know. I don't know how to say his last name. It makes me sad. The Princess Bride is tied with Labyrinth as my favorite childhood movie growing up. I've watched The Princess Bride so many times that I can recite the entire movie. A lot of the quotes in here I personally do throughout the day, just because it's just a part of my vocabulary. And because of this book, I watched The Princess Bride 3 times in the month of July. I know, I'm crazy. If you have seen The Princess Bride and you wanted the special features like the making of, then this is your best friend. Carrie did a wonderful job in writing it. He has pictures from the set. It's so fascinating just to see these characters, you know, with their words. It's just, I just love it. I loved it. I loved it so much. But yeah, like if you like behind the scenes stuff, I really like watching all of those featurettes. Every single time I get a movie, I check to see if there's any special features and whether or not there is a featurette, a behind the scenes, a blooper, a making of. I always want to watch those things. So whenever I see a book that talks about my favorite stuff in the film form, then I do. For the longest time, and I am currently reading The Princess Bride to my children, I thought that William Goldman, am I saying his name wrong? I don't think, yeah, it is Goldman. I thought William Goldman, because when you first start the book, it talks about how he found this book and he wrote it better from a book that his dad used to read. But that's a lie! Like, he totally created The Princess Bride all by himself, which I think is so fascinating. So, yeah, 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Let me just show you really quickly. So here is all the boxes in gray are all of the interviews that Carrie had with his co-stars. So each each chapter has a name. This one's meeting Rob. So this is when he met Rob Reiner, the director, what he thought, and then it talks about, like, he'll ask the other cast, what did you think of Rob when you first started working with them? And then they talk about it in the gray boxes. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. If you were ever curious about Andre the Giant, it goes into detail about him. It's just so, so good. And I highly recommend, if you like the movie and you like nonfiction and you like memoir, like that, such a good read. I absolutely enjoyed it. Next book I want to talk about is The Bell Witch, An American Haunting by Brent Monahan. This was another nonfiction. This author got a call from a college friend who said that somebody she knew, a friend of hers, found a manuscript in the attic of her house. And she was really worried, and she wanted Brent to read it and find out if it was legit or not. So Brent read it and was very intrigued by the whole story. So he decided to research the material and find out if it was accurate and if it took place, and then published the man's actual letter. So this entire story is written by a man. So here's like the letter that the man left. He wrote it in 1841, and he wrote it to his daughter, and then he sealed it all up because he didn't want his wife to read about this. So years and years and years later, you know, because the woman who found this letter in her attic is a descendant of the family, but not very close. So she was like a cousin or something like that. Anywho, back in the day, because I don't remember what the town's called, there was a lady who the town didn't really like. They used to call her Old Kate. And one day she curses this man, the family that this book is about. She curses the man in church, and she says, something very bad is going to happen to you. And then sure enough, around I want to say that night or the day after, a poltergeist kind of thing starts happening to the family. They start hearing scurrying, like scratching noises within the walls. They hear rocks on the roof, and every time the father of the family goes out to investigate, there's nothing there. The Bell family, it says that on the cover, I'm such an idiot. So the Bell father is really upset about this, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, and then the entire family is starting to panic, and then their daughter, Elizabeth, what was her name? She wasn't called Elizabeth, though. People called her something else. I guess it doesn't matter. Anyways, Elizabeth starts having these fits. The poltergeist, witch, the ghost, demon, whatever that's in the house starts to slap her and pull her clothes and scratch her. And so those are the two main family members that are getting attacked. The father and then Elizabeth. Over almost 2 years, this is going on. And the witch says, the curse, the demon, the ghost, whatever you want to call it, the entity says that she will not stop bothering the family until the father is dead. And the town folk at first think it's, you know, a prank, a hoax, and they start coming and seeing for themselves until the entire town is convinced, because they have slept over and all of this is taking place. There's tons of eyewitnesses, and even Andrew Jackson, one of our presidents, witnessed the Bell Witch. He got to see it firsthand that this actually took place. This was before he was president. He was just, you know, the captain of some military thing. But it was a wild read. And the fact that a man wrote this, you know, this isn't fiction. Someone had something happen to that family, and so he wrote it all down. And it was fascinating. I gave it 4 stars because it kind of like was dawdling in the middle, like it was getting a little repetitious, because again, she haunts this house for a long period of time, and so many people come to see this entity, and the family can't leave because the entity is attached to the daughter. So if she goes away, the entity would follow her, so she just stays in the house. And yeah, I really liked it. Like I said, 4 stars. It's a kind of slow in the middle, but the ending was definitely revealing, and I was a little shocked. I mean, I've heard stories before similar to this, and I kind of thought that that might be the case, but it definitely was. And so, yeah, I really liked it. If you like ghost stories or poltergeists or anything like that, highly recommend. All right, those were all of the books that I finished in July. So 1, 2, 3, only 4. I started a whole bunch, but I only completed 4. And, you know, in July I did go to Hawaii, and I had brought 6 books with me, and I didn't read at all while I was there. I was having too much fun with my family, so I didn't read very much. But I was helped a little bit because the Dewey's 24-hour readathon took place. And I've never participated in the Dewey's readathon before, and if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen my hourly posts. I was posting for every category for every hour that the readathon was taking place. And I was able to finish 3 books and a short story in 24 hours. I read for 13 hours straight, and then I took a nap for about 6 hours, and then by the time I woke up I started 2 more books, but then I just kind of gave up because 13 hours straight is a long time to read in the first place. So let's start with the book I finished, and that is The Everafter by Amy Huntley. I started this back in June because this was the Just June or Just the Skinny books. This is under 200 pages. It is, how many pages is it? 244 pages. So it was under 250. Anyways, this is about a girl who dies, and she says it right off the bat, I'm dead. And she finds herself in this like limbo, like this state of being where there's nothing around her. It's just black, but she can sense things. So she's in the afterlife, but she doesn't know what is going on, how she's there. And she sees all these objects in front of her that are glowing. And every time she touches an object, it sends her back to one of her memories of the past. Her downfall in life was she was very, like, she lost things easily. And so all of the items that she finds with her in the afterlife are items that she had lost at some point in her 17 years of life. So every time she touches one, it takes her back to the past when she lost the item, and she can continue to live that that scene or that part of her life every time she touches that object. But if she takes the time to find that object, it ends up changing a little bit of her past, and she doesn't know whether it's in a good way or a bad way. So she, through trial and error, she realizes she shouldn't be finding any of the objects, but she's enjoying going back to the past because it's keeping her with her family. I thought this was very intriguing. It took a while to read because I kept putting it down for other books, but once I really got into it during the Dewey's 24-hour readathon, and I think I was halfway through it before I started the readathon, and then I finished it within a couple hours, I think, and it ended up being really good, and it made me cry because I'm a sap. But if you like anything about the afterlife, I would definitely pick this one up. I gave this one, what, 3.5 stars? Yeah, 3.5 stars. More towards the 4-star mark. I really did enjoy it, and I'm going to keep it. So yeah, I really liked it. Next, I finished Richard Matheson's A Stir of Echoes. This is a movie. I haven't seen it in a really long time. It stars Kevin Bacon. And I don't know how I feel about Richard Matheson's writing. I read I Am Legend and I didn't like it. The ending was awful. There was so much hope in that book, and then it just crashed at the end. And I know life isn't always happy endings, but I was just devastated. And then in this book, the wife just irritated the hell out of me. I don't understand it. And that's because whenever I read, I put myself in the shoes of the character and try to figure out how I would react to the situation and those that are around me, the characters that are in the main character's life. And it just drives me crazy. So this book is about a man who gets hypnotized by his brother-in-law at a party. And the brother-in-law wakes him back up, but the brother-in-law is not a psychologist, so he's learning this trick, but he doesn't really know how to bring people back out of it. So because he didn't really close off our main character's mind, Tom Wallace is his name. He never closed off Tom's mind completely. Tom was more susceptible to psychic abilities. He's able to have a little bit of telepathy. He's able to touch objects and read it. And the wife is really freaked out about this whole thing, and she's hoping that it'll just go away. She doesn't like it. She thinks it's a nuisance, and it scares her. And she's pregnant, and it makes sense. But she's constantly telling Tom about how she wants him to stop, as if now that you're psychic, you can just turn it off, which he's telling her that. He's like, I can't just make it go away. But he tries, and he finds out a lot of information that happened in his house before they purchased it. Overall, like I said, I gave it 3.5 stars. It was good. I think the movie is better, but I'll have to rewatch it to double check, because I really liked the movie back when I first watched it. Yeah, it was a good read. It wasn't scary. So if you just like paranormal reads, then I would definitely pick this one up. And the last book that I finished during the not the last book. Well, the last full novel I finished within the 24-hour readathon is Dead Mountain, the untold story of the Dyatlov Pass incident by Donnie Eicher. I think it's Eicher. I picked this up because, one, I thought that the death of these 5, is it 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe there was 6. I can't remember how many hikers there were. But this took place in Russia in the 1950s. These college students went out to get their hiking certificates, like the Hiking 3 certificate, which is the highest you can get. They decided to go during the winter time into an area that they haven't gone before. Now, when they go out there, everything seems fine. They are capable hikers, and so when they don't show up back at school 2 weeks later, searches start happening, and they find out that all of the hikers are dead. Now, this is about a man that lives in America, Donnie Eicher, who finds out about this phenomenon, you know, about these like hikers that mysteriously die, and there's no real explanation on how this happens. And he's very intrigued by the whole thing, so he decides to go and investigate himself, and he flies to Russia, and the Russians that he gets to meet are just like, why are you even interested in something that took place here like 50 years ago? Like, what does this have to do with you? I don't understand why you care. And he goes through the motions of even going and doing the hike himself. Why I gave this 4 stars and not a 5-star read is because the ending was anticlimactic. I think it's because I went in with an expectation, a supernatural expectation on what happened to these hikers and how they died. And what really happened, or what he claims really happened, was kind of like, not that fun. There's a scientific reason, according to him, on how these people died. And it makes a lot of sense, but it was like really sad because I didn't like the outcome. I was hoping for like alien invasion or a conspiracy, but bummer drag. That's not what the author found. Regardless, it's very interesting. If you like these kinds of stories, I would definitely pick it up. It was kind of dry, though, I must say, because he talks about all of the people and the hikes and everything, and it goes back and forth where it's talking about the past, what the hikers did, their journey to get to the mountains, to Dead Mountain, to do their hike for school, and then it goes to the present where our author is investigating the Russians and one of the hikers that was with these people that had to leave early, that ended up not dying, so he was the only survivor. And so he interviews these people, so it's like it's scattered. You get the real story with the hikers, the past, and then you get the present with the author going through the motion of investigating and going and doing their exact hike in the winter time, to find out, you know, if he can experience the same thing, if maybe he can find out what happened to them. So, good 4-star read. It's a little bit boring sometimes because it's very heavy on, like, accuracy, you know, like what they did, blah, 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 blah. Very interesting, though. I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend. And then the very last book that I read during Dewey's 24-hour readathon was this short story. This is an ugly cover. I'm going to see if I can find the better cover. I'll just leave a picture that I had on Instagram of the better cover here. But this is only like 8-10 pages long, and it's about a man who owns a hog farm in the South. I can't remember what state it is. He owns this hog farm. This farm has been in his family for 4 generations, I believe. Everyone thinks that it's not worth it because the dirt is dead. And one night, the main character sitting on his porch, and he's always waiting for his dad to come home. It's been 30 years, and he's been waiting for 30 years out on his porch every night, same time, for a couple hours, waiting to see if his dad will show up, which is very superstitious. So let's go back a little bit. His dad walks into the forest, bog, marsh, whatever you want to call it, the swamps, when he's 13 and never returns. And so 30 years later, he's still out there looking to see if his dad will come. Now, one night, he sees something and hears something, and lo and behold, a train shows up in front of his house, and the conductor is the devil himself, here to claim the man because the father said he could have him. Like, that was his payment. The father asked for something. The devil said, the payment is your son. The dad gladly gave his son to the devil, and so the devil is there to collect. Very cool story. Again, it's only like 10 pages, so it's super short, but it was a fun read. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Yeah? 3 stars. I gave this one 3 stars. It's by William Cook. Again, I like this cover a lot better than the one you can see on Goodreads, which is super boring. This one has a train, and now look at this one. This one is a ticket. So ugly and boring. I really enjoyed the train one more. So those are all the books that I completed in July, and the 3.5 books that I finished at the beginning of August during the Dewey's 24-hour readathon. Dewey's, I will leave their link down below for their website and also their Goodreads link. They have, I think, 3, maybe 4 readathons a year, and it's a lot of fun. This time around it was more fun because it was called the reverse-a-thon. So instead of them starting at like midnight anywhere you live, everyone started at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or excuse me, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and everyone ended 24 hours later. So it was 5 o'clock in my time in California when I started. So it ended at 5 p.m. the next day, which is very good because people don't want to start a readathon at midnight because they've already done their whole day, and between the wee hours of the morning you get a little tired. So I started at 5 like I was supposed to. I finished at 6 o'clock in the morning the following day, and then I slept until about 1, I think, and tried to continue reading, but I just couldn't. I was done. But yeah, 3.5 books is really good. I think overall I read about 548 pages because all the books that I read I started halfway through, and I kind of cheated a little bit, but at least I got all those books that I had carried over from June read. So yay for me. And that is it. I hope you guys are enjoying your day. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. It's Thursday when I'm filming this, so hopefully I can post it today. We will see. Otherwise, it will be up tomorrow. And that is it. I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, bye.